I want you to listen very carefully to this clip I'm going to show you from Miracle on 34th Street. Notice how the word faith is defined.
A nice old man with whiskers, like my mother said, and I shouldn't have believed you.
I was wrong when I told you that, Susie. You must believe in Mr. Kringle and keep right on doing it. You must have faith in him.
But he didn't get me. That doesn't make sense, Mommy.
Faith is believing in things when common sense tells you not to.
Huh? Huh? Huh?
That was in the original, I think, right? You notice what she said, though. Faith is believing in things when common sense tells you not to. See, that's what our culture believes is the definition of faith. That's what they're working from. In fact, if you read Richard Dawkins' book, The God Delusion, where he argues if you believe in God, you're delusional, he argues that faith, or he just asserts that faith is persistent false belief held in the face of strong contradictory evidence. And so you have all this evidence going one way, and you just blindly believe, have faith in the opposite direction. It's kind of like this. On one end of the spectrum, you have science and reason, okay? This is when you're thinking rational. The more evidence you have, it points towards truth, this idea. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, this is where you have no evidence. And this is where you insert faith, okay? Faith on this view amounts to wishful thinking, and that's why people talk about blind faith or a leap of faith, okay? And so on this view, science and faith are completely at odds with each other. Agreed. But the question is that what real biblical faith is? Well, I actually don't think so. And neither does my friend Sean McDowell. You guys know who Sean McDowell is? Sean, apologist, professor at Biola. He says in his book, Is God Just a Human Invention? He writes, faith is not belief in spite of the evidence, but belief in light of the evidence. I like that. It's not belief in spite, it's belief in light of the evidence. Now here's the problem. Who are you going to believe? Are you going to believe Richard Dawkins, Miracle on 34th Street, the culture? You're going to believe some Christians like Sean McDowell? Well, I have an idea. If you want to know what biblical faith is, it might be a good idea to, look in the Bible. Who says that's a good idea? All right, it's carried. How about we go to the Bible? So let's just look at one passage. We could spend an hour looking through the Bible on what faith is, but I think this is a great passage to go to. It turns out in John's gospel, he tells us why he wrote his gospel near the end. This is the purpose statement for why he wrote. You see, you read Luke, he tells you right up front, here's why I'm writing. But you read John, you got to wait till almost the end of the book, chapter 20. And in chapter 20, John tells us in no uncertain terms why he recorded what he recorded. Here's what he says. Now, Jesus did many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not written in this book. Okay, stop right there. There's all these other signs we don't even know about. They're not even written down in John's gospel, okay? So there's all these signs and wonders. But he says, but these are written. Okay, why, John? Why did you write about these signs and wonders? So, if you got your Bible, circle the word so. So that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. The whole point in John writing his gospel is to provide a trustworthy eyewitness testimony, evidence, so that you and I would read the evidence and believe. You see, John, he got to see the evidence and believe. Well, I didn't get to see the resurrected Christ, neither did you. What we get is to read about the evidence and believe. Does this sound like John didn't care about evidence? Seriously, does this sound like John wants us to take a blind leap of faith in the dark? Not even close.
At Stand to Reason, we help Christians think clearly as they share their worldview with others. If you want to see more videos like this, click the subscribe button.